COAD and then our other guest. And
yeah, let's start with COAD. So I'm going to rearrange that agenda as you not as you watch, but shortly. So thank you everybody for joining us today for our May countywide Fire Safe Council meeting. It is Wildfire Awareness Month, so we'll have some tips and tools down the road here a little further down, and we're going to bump our updates from Napa Firewise and around the county to after our guest speakers, and then Abigail and Susan, you're welcome to stay on if you like and join us for that part too. But it's my pleasure to introduce, first off, Abigail Flores from Napa Valley COAD, Communities Organizing After Disasters, Around Disasters. Darn it, I get it wrong every time.
It's such a long acronym, but yes, we are Napa Valley Community Organizations Active in Disasters. Although we do work around them as well.
In, around, after, during,
everything.
All of the above.
We're
just also have Miguel, who is the new director for NV COAD, for short. Says the Napa Community Firewise Foundation, also a mouthful. So we'll stick with our shorter titles. But Abigail, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you. Can I share my screen?
I hope so. Here, I'll stop sharing mine.
Yeah.
My computer's thinking about it. I'm also maybe go off camera because for some reason at 5 o'clock my bandwidth goes down a little bit. Not just mine, but also my internet bandwidth. Wow. Just in case you're not done reading that agenda yet, my computer is pretty sure you need to look at that a little bit longer. I've got the spinning wheel, just if you're wondering.
Well, I guess we don't really need. Oh wait,
there we go.
I'm out. Like I can work without the visuals. I know some of you are driving, so you won't be able to enjoy them anyway.
But I will, and I am recording this, and it'll be on our YouTube channel probably by tomorrow-ish. For those of you who are driving, so you can watch it later. The replay.
Thank you.
It's all yours.
So I am Abigail Flores from Napa Valley COAD. I'm the program manager for this organization. Miguel is joining me. He is currently driving. He's one of them. So he won't be able to, I don't know if he can unmute himself and just say hi really quick, but I'd rather he just keeps his hands on the wheel. I actually got to meet a few of you yesterday at the Angwin meeting. So it's nice to see you all again. Our organization works in all phases of disaster. We are preparedness, response, recovery, and we are a coalition of the other nonprofits, other community-based organizations. We work with the private sector, the public sector. We're partnering with, the Office of Emergency Services all the time. We partner with public health during COVID. So we really are just a collaboration and partnership of multiple organizations around Napa County. And our mission is directly around disasters and trying to create a more resilient and prepared community. So in doing so, one of our preparedness projects is our Meet Your Neighbor program. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about it today, and I'm hoping to go into the actual workshop with you all in person at some point. So we'll talk a little bit more about that after this. So why Meet Your Neighbor? Research shows that the more self-reliant and connected people are in their neighborhood, it greatly improves their chances for recovery and survival. So if we can rely on each other in times of need, those people are going to be able to better escape disaster and then later recover from disaster, because we can always connect to each other and find resources with each other. Word of mouth is one of the best ways that we can actually get information out there. Vulnerable populations are disproportionately impacted by disasters and many times never fully recover. So we saw this with the 2020 wildfires. And vulnerable populations could be anything, you know, it could be maybe the limited English speakers. So they're vulnerable because they don't understand English, and then maybe they don't understand all of the messaging or information that's out there. Older adults and people with mobility issues, that's another vulnerability, and we focus on that specifically with our AFN and older adults subcommittee. So we focus on these vulnerable populations because we want them specifically to have the resources that other able-bodied, you know, people who are more connected to the community, like they will have this information, they will have these resources, and our most vulnerable population doesn't typically have the same resources. So we're just trying to reach everybody so that everybody can survive and recover quickly. So COAD's Meet Your Neighbor program, it provides, we provide a resource guide for our participants at the end of every workshop, and all of the information that we share with you is provided. So I never expect people to take notes. I'm like, I'm just going to talk at you for about an hour. So listen, ask questions, but you don't need to memorize any of this because it will be provided at the end. But the great thing about this guide is, and this program, is that it's for all like emergencies, hazards. It doesn't necessarily have to be a natural disaster that happens for us to like go into action. It could be a very localized. The example I gave last night was if a tree falls over in your neighborhood and it blocks the only exit out of, you know, that area. That's not a disaster that, you know, FEMA's going to come down for. Maybe the county will take a while to come and get, you know, that tree removed, but it's really you and your neighbors that will have to work together to remove that tree so that, you know, you guys can leave that area safely. So that's what this program's all about. How can we help each other during not just giant disasters, but just localized emergencies that could happen within our neighborhoods? This program also is a template more than anything. You don't have to follow everything word by word, because we understand that emergency planning is not a one-size-fits-all. Some of these steps work well with our apartment complexes and mobile home parks or suburban areas because they're a lot closer to each other, but it's very different and it looks very different for rural communities. So everything should be kind of taken with that in mind. You know, your neighbors, you all decide what works best for you. So if a certain step or a certain tip, you know, like, oh, that doesn't make sense for us, then that's okay. You know, it's very adaptable. And then last but not least, your neighbors are always going to be the first responders because they are the closest to you typically when something happens. So it's good to stay connected and keep communication with them. When one of the tips that we give out for rural communities is that if you are, you know, like 3 or 4 miles out from your next neighbor, a good way to stay in touch when the power goes out is to have, you know, radios. So having like a GMSR radio or other type of walkie-talkie type radio would really help everybody kind of stay in communication. So we're actually working on doing something like that with our subcommittee leads as well. So how we can stay in contact with each other internally as well. But yeah, being more connected to neighbors promotes more self-resilience and reliance in our communities, and it's essential for recovery. And at the bottom, I do have our website, which I will share with Sherry so that you all can visit it later. But I do want to share some of the materials we do go over during this program and this workshop. We always talk about alerts. They're super important. That's how you know what's happening in your community. I understand that in certain areas, it's really difficult to receive text messages or calls. So it's really important to know the radio stations that you can tune into typically, and the AM especially because it has a much higher range. And then when emergencies do happen, there's a Calistoga emergency radio station that activates, and it's that 1670 AM radio station. So it's good to know what other sources of information you can find during these times of disaster. I'm sure you all are very familiar with go bags and what you need in them. It's good to have go bags for every member of your family, children, pets even, so that you all have what you need. And critical documents are always the most important thing that you will take with you. aside from medications and medication lists, because they're very difficult to replace at the end. So we very much focus on, the important things for not only keeping yourself safe, but then what will you need later and after a disaster to recover. Here are a few other pages that we have in our guide and our booklet that we share with everyone. It's important to know, like, who knows what, who has what. So we provide that space here where you can put names under, say here, it has like ladder, like who in your neighborhood has a ladder. If somebody needs a chainsaw, like for my tree example, maybe we need Steve down the block who has a chainsaw so that we can move it. So it's good to know like who has these types of not only equipment, but also skills, like CERT skills. Who's CERT certified? Does somebody know first aid? Does somebody know, anything like that? Electrician skills or ham radio operation skills. Those could be very essential during a disaster. And then here are some examples of some of the steps that we go through. I'm not going to go through all of them right now, because I do want to go more in depth in it when I present it to you all in a workshop. But this is kind of what it looks like. I didn't have much to go into detail here yet. I just wanted to give you all a taste about what this is. And I think I can take any questions right now, or I don't know if Suzanne, you wanted to follow me and then we can do questions at the end.
I think if you have questions about Napa Valley COAD or Meet Your Neighbors, this is a good time for them.
Okay. Any questions? All right, maybe
If
not,
I
but
can find the chat in here.
oh, maybe I should stop sharing. Maybe you'll find it.
No, I found it. I'm learning my way around again in Zoom. Seen anything in the chat currently?
Well, thank you very much for that presentation too. Maybe we don't have questions because it was a great presentation and it really makes sense. I always like to comment on things, as everyone knows here. So I will say it sounds like a great complement to what the Fire Safe Council is doing when it comes to networking. So I see that forum as great stuff for all of us Fire Safe Councils to be handing out. And thanks. Yeah, appreciate you sharing your outreach structure, because Debbie, our Fire Safe Council member, is on here, and I'm sure she'd love to help. She's already starting a database of all our residents and trying to get that networking going. I'm sure other Fire Safe Councils are doing similar things, and this sounds like another great tool in the toolbox. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan. Yeah, we're really hoping to get into the smaller neighborhoods that maybe aren't as established and need help like finding a structure. And I think this could really help kind of build that structure, or at least provide some space for it. So I know maybe the more established Fire Safe Councils already have something like this in place. There's already sort of a plan. There's already like a contact sheet. There's already those things in place. But I know there's a lot more Fire Safe Councils that are up and coming, just getting organized. And I think this would be a really good tool for just getting started, and as well as a reminder for the things that we could maybe be doing or refer back to.
And wait, there's more. Abigail and I are actually here with an ulterior motive, which is we'd like to work more closely with you guys and with you guys support you as neighborhood and Fire Safe Council leaders in getting you some more tools to engage your neighbors. And I'm going to talk about our approach. Let me share my desktop.
Suzanne, while you're doing that, there is another question that came in. Kyle from our shop is on his phone, but he's having some technical difficulties, so he can't put a question in the chat. And his question is, how do you reach out to people who work in Napa Valley but don't live here? During disasters, it might not just be your neighbor that needs help. For example, vineyard workers. Great question, Kevin.
Yeah, that would be really difficult, I think, to do, to reach out to people that are outside of your community. I think what's the most important thing during a disaster is your safety. So if you need to evacuate and leave that area, maybe, that would help in finding cell reception so that you can reach out to those people. But from the stories that I've heard at other workshops, it was really just like word of mouth, how neighbors got together and how they were then connected to, say, like coworkers from, the same area, but they worked in the same place, but they lived in different areas. So it's really difficult to contact people, I think, during disasters in general. So I think the best we could do is figure out a communications plan beforehand. And if it's at least within your neighborhood, radios could definitely help with that. But I think when it's outside of your area, it starts to become a little dicey.
And I would take that one step further. There are two ways you can do with people who are working in your area, but and maybe they're in the event of a disaster, but don't actually live there. First, you want to connect with them beforehand, so you actually know who they are. As Abigail says, coworkers have those connections. So when the event hits, you might think of them. So there's a mindset there of who is in my community. It's not only my neighbors, it's anyone who happens to walk through my neighborhood. We at Creative Crisis Leadership talk about micro communities. Anyone who happens to be around me at any given time, they are my community. It's not just people I know, it's anyone who happens to be there. And think about, I have a Verizon store right on the end of my street. I think about them as they're part of my community, the people who work there, even if I don't talk to them regularly. And as you'll see in a moment, Creative Crisis Leadership is also about disaster preparedness. We're particularly aiming at disaster preparedness education and getting people engaged. Our approach is to meet people where they are. So we would like to go to those workplaces, give you guys materials. So if there is a store or somewhere, a business in your community, you have a way of not asking them to come to you, but go to them and do something with them to facilitate those connections before anything happens. So that would be my answer to that one. Get them to come to some of your meet your neighbors meetings, have an event at a time at their site at a time when they can participate. So my name is Suzanne Ewell. I am the founder and executive director of Creative Crisis Leadership. And I want to talk about making disaster preparedness and disaster preparedness education fun. But the first thing I want to do is hear from you. I would like you to, if you can, those of you who aren't driving, oops, that's the wrong one. It's this window. Come on, my Zoom window's in the way. Here we go. Okay, if you could go to, I have the link, I forgot to put them in the link. Menti.com, and there's a code there. I'm going to drop the link into the chat. And just tell me, what are the 3 biggest challenges you face as a Fire Safe Council leader, or if you're not a Fire Safe Council leader, in your work with getting communities engaged, helping communities prepare? And Abigail and Sherry, you can certainly put your concerns in too. Okay, we got in chat, distrust of government. That's good. Oh, that has showed up here in the Menti.
I added it there.
Yep,
so you're
you.
welcome to put it in the chat. I'll put it in the Menti.
And for those of you who are driving, you can unmute and call it out. Funding, that's good.
Complacency.
Say more about complacency. What do you mean by complacency?
Homeowners just being complacent and good thing. Yeah, I guess homeowners being complacent.
So thinking it's it's not going to, it won't happen here.
Yeah, it's not necessary.
Mentality.
Yeah. Homeowners thinking it's not necessary to do the work.
Right.
More words, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I have trust, outreach, privacy. Showing up here. Project updates. That's an interesting one. Communication. Someone said rural communities. Say more about that. What's the issue with rural communities that you're dealing with?
I think one of the issues with rural communities would be that a lot of the people who have properties are not necessarily on those properties all the time. Kind of goes along with the communication side of things. You don't know how to reach those people all the time because they could be anywhere. On site, off site, maybe it's a vacation home, maybe it's a remote farming operation. Could be any of the above. It's just difficult to get to know people who live 3 miles away and who aren't there all the time.
Interesting. That's
Myself
very
included.
interesting. Yeah, because we normally think of rural communities as being well connected and knowing each other, but that's in areas where they are full-time residents and depending on each other. So that's the image we often have of rural communities. So it's really interesting to hear the part-time or distant issues. So there's a lot of communication. Communication issues, funding. I heard complacency, the apathy problem, or it's not going to happen here. Getting outreach. So part of it, neighbors don't get along. Yeah. So part of it is a lot of the communication is getting people connected, getting people engaged, and maybe some facilitation of that network development. Cool, thank you. That's helpful. Because our goal is, as creative crisis leadership, we see the problem in terms of disaster preparedness that people think disaster is very serious. Absolutely. But because it's serious, people think disaster preparedness has to be serious. So what we get is PDFs and PowerPoints, people talking at people and saying, you should do this. And if you don't, you're going to have all these problems. It's going to be awful. That does not motivate and engage people readily. So the mission of creative crisis leadership is to use experiential learning, games, and fun to spread social resilience, getting people to work together and know each other in advance, understand what disaster is about, but use fun and games to get engagement and inspired. Because as Abigail says, communities who are connected, who act together, work together, recover faster and better. And for us, fun is more motivating than fear. What we have is right now, we are a startup. So we have developed a short board game. It takes about 15 minutes to play. These are all wildfire focused at this time. We also have some earthquake versions of them, but the ones we've developed to date are the wildfire versions. We have a 15-minute board game that we take to fairs and community events. People play through a wildfire. Just what would it be like? They get to think through it, play through it. One household. We have a 40-minute collaborative game that we play in groups where, again, they play through a wildfire. That is much more focused on connecting, that it's collective problem solving. We put people in small groups of 4 to 6 or 4 to 8 that pretend to be neighbors, and they have to solve some problems together. that they have to go through this wildfire and solve wildfire related problems together. We also do 2 to 4 hour live action workshops where we go out, actually go to a neighborhood. You might have a block party, have a neighborhood party, and you actually play through a wildfire. So you have to take the actions. You have to do the things. You don't get just to sit and talk about them. The board game is aimed at getting people to think about preparedness and think about what they would need. The collaborative game is aimed at getting people to talk about it, talk amongst their neighbors, make the connections, really discover if they're actually neighbors, who has what skills, those things that some of those things that Abigail was talking about. And the workshops are aimed at getting people to get out of the chairs and actually do something. That's not the one I wanted. The board game. This is what it looks like. It's actually it's a real board game. You know, people set up, they evacuate, they have actions they take. Set of actions they might take depending where the fire is. The wheel tells them where they are. They have to decide, what are you going to do before you leave? What they do there may actually drive what happens later. You know, we have them set up their household. If they don't have a defensible space, when they come back, that might means their house has burned. They have fire damage on their home. If they didn't close their windows, that may cause some other problems late in the game. So it's your actions have consequences. We go through the evacuation, and then they play through what would happen. What happens when you come back? Do you have the resources? You've got to have safety first. Check for ember. Where we drive home ember danger. You have to have safety. You have to have water, and you have to have food. So this takes them through in about 10 or 15 minutes, gets them to think about what they would do, what their priorities are, what their household needs. The cafe game, which is the group collaborative game, as I say, we play it now as a group of 4 to 6, where people have there's one problem the group has to solve, but different players have different situations and different things they have to deal with, and the group has to figure out, how do we make sure everything comes out okay, and that everyone as a neighborhood, we get through this event. That takes about 40 minutes. And then the live action workshops, where people actually, if you're gonna, this gentleman was evacuating and putting water in the car, making sure he could figure out how long does it take. We're gonna actually do, and we've had people who pack their go bags, they get in the car and they go. You know, if people tell us I'm turning off my gas, then I want a picture of you with the wrench by the valve, so that I know you have the wrench, you know where the valve is, and you can get to it. So those are sort of the 3 versions, the 3 activities we go through. People love this approach. As you can see here, we have people standing in line. So I have people standing in line to be educated about disaster preparedness. Think about that. How often do you have people waiting around going, oh, I really want to do this? We consistently have people walking away from all of our games going, yeah, I learned this. We did an event at Lake Solano on this past Saturday, and the Lake Robin Rains, the emergency manager for Solano County, was telling me afterwards, he said, yeah, I loved hearing the conversations when they walked away, you know, really talking about home hardening, defensible space. And yeah, you know, we need to do something about those bushes outside our door. So families talking about it. That was the board game. And this quote, you know, as an adult, I love playing the game. It got my brain thinking in ways I wouldn't think and process by listening to someone speak. So cool. So it's this whole approach of getting people, not just telling them, but getting them to think through what their needs are, engaging their emotions, making it fun, making it exciting, just like all the big companies who want to sell you stuff, what they're doing, using gamification and emotional appeal. We have 2 events coming up. We will be at the Cloverdale Fire and Earthquake Expo on the 19th in Cloverdale. Some of you may know of that, with the board game. And then working with Napa Valley COAD, there is an event for the Yountville community on Wednesday, June 12th from 5:30 to 6:30. And Abigail, do you want to say anything about that before I tell people they should come?
Yeah, I think it's actually from 5 to 7,
Okay.
but it will be in the community room that they have in the downtown area. It's open to, I mean, I think it'll be primarily Yountville residents that go, but it's open to the public. So everybody is welcome to come if you wanted to check out what this cafe game kind of looks like. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see it. I'm hoping that Suzanne and I kind of get a few practice rounds in before then. So, yeah, I mean, that's something that we're planning and talking about with Sherry. So my idea for this group is that we have like an in-person meetup, and, you know, I can go through the Meet Your Neighbor program a little bit more in depth, go through more of that information, and maybe even give out the booklets so that you all can take them with you. But also then afterwards, I want us all to play this game, this cafe game, so that we can walk through what we just learned and also what you all have learned throughout the years. You know, this is something that is not new to you. So how has your planning gone? Like, have you practiced these plans recently with your neighbors? So I would really like to have us all play this, and I mean, myself included, I'm excited to play it myself, and do something in person with everyone. So we're in the talks right now with Sherry and trying to, you know, figure out a time and date for everyone, but also a location. You know, that could always be tricky. But that was mainly the reason that we've come to talk about this programming with you all today, because we plan to do something in person. And I hope that then you can take what you learn from these workshops with you into your fire safe councils. And this can kind of trickle down into the smaller neighborhoods. Like, hey, I went to this, you know, workshop. I went and played this game. It was very engaging. I think it would work well with our neighbors and our neighborhood. And I'm going to bring it here to our next meeting so we can now meet specifically with, say, the Pope Valley Fire Safe Council and their group. If there's other fire safe councils, like I think you were saying, have bigger reach, like the area is just a lot bigger, and we need to go into the individual smaller neighborhoods, we, you know, we're more than happy to do that as well. So we really want people talking about emergency preparedness, especially right now that fire season is coming up. And I would love it if people start practicing their plans in a way that maybe isn't as boring and stiff as it normally is. You know, I love the element of this this game. It's very interactive. It's a whole new way of thinking about emergency preparedness for sure. And I'm hoping that it will create more engagement. You know, something we've been lacking. I think a lot of people don't want to participate, but if you say that it's like game, there's food and it's fun, then maybe more people are inclined to check it out.
And one of our goals is for people to walk away with all of these, with the intent and motivated to do at least one thing. Because we know if they do one thing, they can focus on one thing. Then once they've done that, they'll do another thing and another. Whereas if you give them the whole laundry list, they go overwhelmed. I don't have time. I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. But if they have that, oh, this is really important to me, I want to do that one thing, we've gotten them hooked. So our goal for creative crisis leadership, we want to be in the business of providing people like you with these kinds of games and tools to engage and excite and inspire neighbors to prepare for disaster. Not necessarily be the ones to come out and run this game for your fire safe councils or for your neighborhoods, but give you the materials so you can run it, and give Abigail and the Napa Valley COAD the materials so they can run it. So it's this, what I'd like to do here, and what we'd like to from you is this interesting? Can we figure out how can we make this help you? How can we address some of the problems you said? I saw some interesting, the communication issues. That might be something we build in more to our games to work with you. You know, how do we address some of the specific issues, the big challenges you face? Bottom
Great.
line is, we got to make it fun.
I love it.
One
And-
more
and-
point. Go ahead, Sherry.
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, Eric has his hand up as well.
Yep, Eric.
Hey, hello everybody. Hey, you know what? I'll be brief. I strongly agree with what you just said. Is if we have events, and I say we as a, people are looking at us, at all of us as the subject matter experts when we're tabling or at any capacity, different events. We all have pretty much the same information. There's no question about that, and it's good. It's consistency. But the delivery, I like what you just said, is making it fun, because there's going to be a time, and it's already happening, where people are getting tired of the same stuff being pushed, and we need to find innovative ways to be able to, through education, be able to continue pushing that messaging. Because what's going to happen is, if we don't find different ways, then people are going to say, well, you know what, I'm going to hear the same thing that they said last year, which they are, but we're finding different ways of delivering that message. So I really like the whole idea of games, and it's just different ways. I think OES also has produced Loteria game. It's it's like a Mexican bingo, essentially. So it's good. I like different, innovative, and less PowerPoints. People are tired of PowerPoints, and it just I want to say I do like what you just said.
Thank you. And the other part here is that we can take this out to the people who don't show up at preparedness fairs and get them engaged. We've taken this to farmers markets. We took it to a farmers market in Sebastopol. It was pouring rain. Half the vendors weren't there, but we were still playing games. We still had people engaged. So it can give them that little bit of a taste. Just get them started a little bit. And creative crisis leadership works very hard. As I say, we want to be in the instructional design, the game design, the experiential design, and evaluation. We do a lot of work to say, what are best practices? What are the best learnings from communities that would really be helpful in advance for them to know and practice, and then focus on those things, not the whole laundry list, but be very sure we're in alignment with the local messaging.
I'm going to raise my hand like this because I can't find the raise my hand button right now. Donnie up in Diamond Mountain. I've heard you say something that I think is really interesting, which is farmers markets. And I'm wondering, Abigail, if you guys have thought about using that. In our area, we've been evacuated like 3 times since 2017. And there are a core group of people who absolutely understand exactly what they need to do. Sometimes there are financial limitations, but we've got a radio team, and we've got a communication system that'll do cell phones and landlines and texts and get information out. But there's still the people that don't show up, right? So even if I heard you, Suzanne, say, even if we're 90%, we still have 10% that are the people who don't show up no matter what you do, or the people who are new in the community and they don't, they bought their house. They don't really want to hear about the fact that they're in a high risk area. And I think that we, the idea of sort of putting this in neutral locations like farmer markets is a really interesting idea. You see a lot of people, and they're not feeling burdened by the idea that you're bringing them information about disasters.
Yeah,
Right,
COAD
and it's
will
that's
be
the
at
board
the.
game is. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Abigail.
I was just gonna say COAD will be at the Angwin Flea Market in May. So I'll extend that invitation out to you, Suzanne, if you're willing to come all the way out there and do a board game.
Well, I'm even wondering if it might be something that we could see test drive, but then see about the farmer's market in St. Helena and the farmer's market in Calistoga and the farmer's market in Napa. And,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the goal,
I think
of
it's a
course, is the game is settling where this is, we're hoping this is something you could go take to farmer's market, because of course we
Sure.
don't have enough time and volunteers, but
Sure,
it is getting
of
to the
course.
point where we could, let you test drive it and have something
Yeah.
that works up there. And the whole
Great.
goal is, of course, the board game is for it to be 10 to 15 minutes, because people go to farmer's market, they'll spend 10 to 15 minutes. So we pare down, let's just get them interested and focus on, as I say, one action and one insight for the 15 minutes, but then they go, oh, but that was interesting. What else can I do? They start thinking about it.
Okay, I've got Brandon's got a hand up and Eric's got his hand up, and then we need to move on to some fire updates too next.
I think Eric had his hand up first.
I think Eric may have had his hand up from
No,
earlier.
I'm good. I'm good. I already said my part. Thank you, Brendan.
Quickly, Donine, the hand raising is it's in the reactions tab on the bottom of the screen. For next time. But I like the idea of educational and games and things like that. I think a board game might be a little much for a farmer's market. What if there's like a spin the wheel and win a prize type of deal? You spin the wheel, have an educational topic, discuss it, and then move on. And then if they're interested, they could spin the wheel again or whatever. And then they can walk away with a pen or a button or like a know your zone magnet with their zone number on it or something along those lines.
Yeah, those are the type
that's
of
certainly
interactions
something-
we have.
Yeah, we can talk about that offline. That's something we can certainly discuss and would like a shorter version. There's a number of instructional concerns about what do they actually learn, because what we get is they spin the wheel and they get a prize, and now they've learned if you spin the wheel you got to get a prize. They don't actually learn that you have the instructional content you want.
Well, that's like when you spin the
So
wheel.
that's a design
topic
question there.
Yeah. Whatever the
yeah.
topic is what is the important part. And if they can
Yeah,
answer,
and what's
the
important
question correctly,
right? Now
then
you're testing them. People don't like to feel tested, so it's a great idea, and I think there are ways to work with it, and we'll be working on that. But how do you integrate it so that it's what's in their heads, not what we want to tell them? Because the goal here is to get them asking questions.
But maybe it's
right?
the questions on the spin the wheel, like who in your neighborhood needs help? Or do you know your evacuation routes? Simple things.
Yeah, I
Right.
think that's something that Napa Valley COAD as like for emergency preparedness, that's kind of our role. So I think Suzanne specifically does like experiential learning. So I think her, her table will just have like a longer stay period, so people will just stay there a bit longer. But then our table at Napa Valley COAD would be, hey, can you tell me what the 5 steps of preparedness are? Can you tell me 3 critical documents you would take with you on an evacuation? And then we provide more resources and information on that. So I think it's just our different ways of going about preparedness in that way. So but yeah, we would fill that gap, I think. So that's a good way for COAD and creative crisis leadership to partner together.
It's also a question of where we are. Yeah,
guys,
we have a
thank you.
shorter. We go on our website. We have some just puzzles, 30-second puzzles that we did to start filling that short gap. Sorry,
Okay,
Sherry, go ahead.
That's all right, Suzanne and Abigail. If you guys can stay on, we can chat more after this. But Dave Shew's on the line, and Eric. I know Dave wanted to chime in really quickly. He's got to leave for another meeting very shortly. So let's hear from Dave.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, still meetings stacked up in the evening. So anyway, hey, thanks everybody for being here. And I love this conversation and would like to still remain a part of it. Just very quickly before I have to run off, for those of you who don't know, I just wanted to make the announcement that J.R. Rogers and myself, as the fire administration team, did presentations to the Board of Supervisors yesterday morning. I gave a presentation on essentially my big vision for the 30-year fire resiliency plan for Napa County. It's all recorded and online for the Board of Supervisors. In addition, we announced publicly that the BRIC grant that a lot of people have heard about over the years, it was applied for back in 2022, and it is here. We have officially, formally received the green light, and we are moving forward. What that means essentially is that over the next 4 to 5 years, that Napa County will be spending approximately $50 million in doing fire prevention work across the county. We have 7 projects identified that will be focused on for vegetation treatments, but there will also be projects related to home hardening and defensible space issues. So a lot of work coming forward. The first year, now that we have the green light, we'll spend the next 12 to 14 months doing all the outreach, public education, and all the environmental reviews. So we'll be doing, a lot of the paperwork and a lot of the preparation to start the actual work in about a year, a little over a year. So anyway, just in case anybody hadn't heard all about that yet, that is moving forward. And just wanted, it's a big deal to Napa County to have this opportunity to really jumpstart, or keep working on all the great work that's being done. But this is the infusion of a lot of federal dollars, and I'm looking forward to it. And I don't know, JF, do you have anything you'd like to share before we run to the next meeting?
Yeah, I'll just toss on the end of it. Dave covered it very well, but just basically a reminder, there's no application as of yet, and there's nothing to do on the community's behalf at the moment. We have a ton of legwork to do to prepare for it, but this will definitely be one of the first places we land to kind of daylight that and outreach and kind of get that information out to you guys. So it's coming. The second thing I just want to mention really quick, just a reminder for everybody about the chipping program. countyofnapa.gov/chip countyofnapa.org/chipping. It's been a long day already. Just want to put a plug in there that we are hitting sites pretty quickly. So please don't put an application in until your pile's ready. We found a lot of people so far this year that are putting their application in, and we show up and they thought they had, a month or two before we got there. We're hitting them pretty quick. So yeah, let's get chipping. That's all I got. Thanks.
And I guess
Thank you both. And
if anybody has any real quick questions, we could maybe field 1 or 2 before we run off.
Dave, I was just going to mention, great presentation the other day. I reviewed the recording, spoke to CEO Alsop today, and I understand they're going to package it up. And he and I talked about us pushing it out through all of our channels and things like that. So I think we're just waiting for the county to prepare like an edited version, as I understand it.
Perfect. So you're saying I need to get an agent and I can like sell autographs and things?
Be royalties involved for sure. Yeah.
I already charged $5 for mine, so.
JR, way to go. Yeah, and I'll have the link for you all. I'll send out notes from this meeting and links to everything, including that presentation if you haven't already seen it by then. You can go onto the county website. I think the basic recording's up now, but if you want to wait for the
the full recording resides
packaged
there. Yeah, resides there for sure.
Yeah. Thanks, Joe.
Excellent. Well, thank you both. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and enjoy meeting evening. Any other words from you two, or Erick, Hernandez? Do you have any other updates?
The only update that I have is, the only update, excuse me, the only update that I have right now is we, as promised, we just concluded our first round of inspections in various estates. So we will be coming back to do re-inspections of those properties that were found to be non-compliant. We currently are working in Angwin right now, so we just started yesterday. So as JR mentioned, that please take advantage and continue pushing the free chipping program through your newsletters / email lists that you guys have. We urge you to please continue pushing that message and continue letting the community know that we're actively inspecting communities. So right now we're focusing in Angwin, then we're going to move over to Deer Park. So just want to highlight that. Other than that, that's pretty much it for me. And thank you, everybody. Oh, one last question. You might have seen that effective May 1st, everybody that plans on doing any burns, they have to obtain a permit through CAL FIRE website. So I'll send you a link so that you guys can push that out. So any pile burning on private property, just make sure that we're pushing that they have to get a permit. Other than that, we're good to go. I appreciate everybody's time.
Thanks, Eric and Dave and JR. Appreciate all of your updates and all your great work.
Thank you very much. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. And Joe, you're back at the Hub Central there. Do you want to talk about a few updates for Napa Firewise?
Yeah, I was just going to mention that we are we completed a round of grant applications to PG&E. I don't think we updated the team on this last time. We did speak about it last night up in Angwin, but we got notified from PG&E that we were awarded all of the grant requests that we had. There are 3 fuel management projects, and then we also put in some money for dip tanks to have water located in some strategic locations, which we're working with CAL FIRE on. So Sherry, I think do you have the grant there in front of you?
I have a short, yes, I have a short updates. Let's see.
One of the projects was around Tucker Acres, and I know that Tucker Acres has, I think, as I recall, last night there was discussion about the fire safe councils in Deer Park and Diamond Mountain doing a project, like a community project, to clean up around there. We've got some additional funds that we're going to be able to assist you with that effort. It's around 50 grand, I think. And then what are the other 2 projects, Sherry?
Shady Brook Road.
Yeah, so Coombsville Wild Horse, there's Shady Brook as an area that needs quite a bit of cleanup.
And you've got Jeff Enos working on that, right?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and thank you guys for helping. Thank you in advance for helping to get any landowner agreements that are needed for that project. And then in Deer Park, St. Helena Hospital, some protection of their critical infrastructure.
That's right up around their water tanks, I think.
Yep, and the wastewater treatment facilities as well. And the PG&E infrastructure in the area. So those are the projects. And then I don't know if we've mentioned the beacon boxes too to this group.
Oh yeah, so that's a separate chunk of money that we got from PG&E some months back to purchase, I think it's 4 or 5 beacon boxes and to place them at various locations around the county. So from PG&E we have money for these beacon boxes, and then also for these dip tanks. We're running through a little proposal process right now on the dip tanks with 2 different companies. I know Doneen Dyer, we want to connect with you because as I understand it, there's some discussions that you all are having with one of the 2 companies that we're evaluating. And we want to make sure that we sort of, unless you all have made a commitment or sort of nailed something down, we want to make sure that we loop in with you as it relates to sort of the funds that we've got and purchasing stuff to make sure that we maximize the value of that decision for you all.
Look forward to it. Just let us know.
Yeah. And then for the beacon boxes, similarly. So anyway, so for the dip tanks, these are essentially shipping containers, converted shipping containers that hold like 5,000 gallons or 6,000 gallons of water in them. We obviously need to coordinate with CAL FIRE's flight crew resources in terms of location. There were a couple different places that we were considering, but we need to sort of work through that with CAL FIRE. And then similarly with the beacon boxes, we want to make sure that we find neighborhoods and or volunteer fire departments will be considered as potential locations for those things, because we want to make sure that they get maintained and updated and that they've got the appropriate information and somebody's kind of looking out for them. So I think we have 5 beacon boxes. So that's one set of grants that we got, that we landed. JR and Dave mentioned some of these other things that are coming down the pipe from that we've worked with the county on as it relates to FEMA. There's going to be a sort of a bid process that we'll go through to see if we'll be selected as the entity to help them with those things. So we're sort of in active communication with them about what that's going to look like and the timing for that. And that includes everything from this Thompson PDM FEMA earmark you might have heard about, congressionally directed spending earmark that was in the paper. We're about to publish a little article in the paper as well about it. That's for work up around the Lake Hennessy water treatment facility, which falls into the Lake Hennessy Fire Safe Council and the Hennessy Rector Fire Safe Council area. And then there's work up and around Deer Park, up and around the hospital that'll happen with that. So that probably we'll know more about in the next couple months. And then, the first phase of the brick thing is a planning phase. So there'll be quite a bit of outreach, education, environmental compliance that needs to be done before we can get rolling on any of those big fuel management projects or any of the defensible space and home hardening cost share programs. So that's kind of a quick update on the money side of things. Any questions about any of that stuff?
What's your process for selecting sites for the beacon boxes?
I think that we want, communities that, my view is we want communities that are going to sort of take ownership of them and can help us to pull information together to the extent that it can be in the proximity of a volunteer fire department in that community. That I think would be sort of an added benefit. We want them to be located in a place where it's obvious that, you're going past this location to get to a neighborhood or a community. So I think, we're open to suggestions, and if people are interested, certainly want you to raise your hands and let us know that you're interested. I think there's probably lessons learned about what the beacon boxes are, how they work and how they don't work. I know we had communities, I think Diamond Mountain was one with the Knox box, that you guys went through, that there's probably some lessons learned about that.
Yep.
Brandon Manelli, who's got his hand up and is on the line here, has been a big help with us in terms of pursuing money to get the beacon boxes, and then has a connection with the company that manufactures them. And Brandon, I don't know if you want to add any additional comments. You got your hand up, you're muted out. There you go.
Right. The Hennessy Rector Fire Safe Council has a beacon box now, and some of the lessons we've learned is, there's only so much data that you could put on a map that's useful. It's kind of the opposite of what Diamond Mountain had on their end. They had a lot of information in their Knox box. So to simplify that into something that they can quickly, that out-of-town crews can quickly look at and understand, and then having it in an area that's small enough to manage. I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for us, to figure out the locations of these beacon boxes. And I'm working with Mike Wilson and Hugh Greenberg on those, and as kind of a liaison between the company who manufactures them, the flame mappers. And I feel like these 4 boxes that are from PG&E, we should maybe start at the most vulnerable places, and maybe we divide the county up and into the fire safe councils, and put the council responsible for each beacon box, and start there. And that way, each council is responsible for upkeeping the data, or at least reaching out and upkeeping the data. If there's any changes, making those changes. And I think that might be a good way to control it, as long as there's an agreed upon rally point that, the chief can tell these out-of-town crews to collect themselves at during a wildfire event.
Yeah, that's where I think to that point, a volunteer station is likely a staging area. So that's kind of a logical place to do it. So what I would say is if you're an FSC lead, you're interested in being considered for this, reach out to Sherry. I'm going to point them to you for the time being. And then we'll basically, gather that together with our consultation with the CAL FIRE folks, Napa County Fire folks. And then, we've got 4, so we'll have to make some decisions about where
I'm,
they go.
I'm happy to answer any questions for anybody who has any questions on, or show them, the maps that we have and the data that's on there and how helpful it is for us.
Yeah.
So yes, but just to get back to that, we did, you're right, put more information than has ever been used on in a Knox box at the request of people from Firewise, actually. But we do maintain the database, so the information is still there and still viable. And we'd be very interested in pursuing this as long as it's something that will be used. That I think is our biggest concern, is that if it won't be used, we've been burned once. We don't want to go down that road again. We probably have some funds if we're looking at, and I suspect other fire safe councils might as well, but to my mind, and the discussions that we've had in our steering committee have been, let's make sure that this is something that will be used before we invest in it.
Right. I think I speak for everyone when we say we hope that they never are used, because we're trying to keep wildfire away from us. But if they are used, they should, I think, be simple and easy to read, to save time.
Yeah, and as long as somebody will actually open it.
Yes.
Right.
That's important.
Yeah, and there's
Can
also
they read?
Yeah.
I also have a couple of ideas that I've been talking with a colleague about, where there's QR codes on some of these maps, and so maybe there's QR stations around the valley that might be easier if
Well, we can take this offline, but I am really
Yeah.
interested in it.
Yeah, I think there will be a lot of interest from past conversations I've had with people. So I'm really glad we have 4, and maybe PG&E will love them so much they'll give us another.
And we did apply for
So-
more through CAL FIRE, and CAL FIRE indicated that they could support that, and then they actually just said, hey, your application advanced, but we're not going to do the beacon box thing. So I think that it had nothing to do with the viability of the things. It was like a supply thing. There's restrictions in them buying certain kinds of things or something like that. So that was that. Couple other quick things. Yeah, I know we're sort of over time here. So one, I just wanted everybody to recognize that Donnie Dwyer and maybe others too were out in DC this last week, lobbying and advocating for all things wildfire resilience, along with a contingent of vintners, making sure that the name Napa Valley is protected. So thanks, Donnie, for being out there. I know in particular you were working on one grant that we're working through a sequencing issue on. So I really appreciate you going out there.
I think we made some progress.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Got to get with these folks face to face, and jumping on a plane and spending time in DC is can make a difference. So thank you for doing that. Last thing I was going to mention, somebody asked a question: are helipods fixed or mobile? They are sort of fixed in a way. I mean, you place them, we could move them to another location in a different season if we decided to. We are pursuing 2 different companies. Helipod is one, the other is this company, Wildfire Water Solutions. And so, we're not bound just to Helipod. We're going to try to get the best deal we can and have these companies sort of bid on it. So just so people are aware of that. One last thing I was going to mention, because Sherry, we're supposed to, this is an hour-long meeting, right? You're muted out.
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't know,
it is.
if we're planning on going through other updates, or if we're on the wrap mode here.
Speed round of just a couple quick things at the very end, but yeah, go.
Okay, last thing I was going to mention is I am in discussions right now with MeterMe Technology, which owns Valley Internet, Ofer Tenenbaum. Some of you all might be aware of him. They have some technology that allows you to put monitors on your water tanks and then relay that information as a check the box that CAL FIRE can see what your head pressure is on your hydrants and the volume of water that's in your storage tanks. And we are in discussions very preliminarily to see about supporting like a pilot project with a given community where they would essentially waive the cost, the subscription costs, if you select the box that makes your water visibility available to Napa County Fire. So as I gather more information on it, I'll let you know, but we will probably come back and ask the FSCs if, you know, where there might be some interest in doing like a pilot project like that, so that we get greater visibility around water resources in some of these rural communities.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I'll pause on that, and whatever the next item is, Sherry, in terms of
Excellent.
lightning
Excellent.
round updates or.
Lightning round. Well, yeah, unfortunately, I don't think we have time to go around all the fire safe councils. I mean, I can try to leave the Zoom open. I have to run out the door in about 5 minutes too, but if people want to chat with each other still, I do love to offer that opportunity. In the meantime, I have a whole list of upcoming events, and I will email those around, probably is the easiest way. But do you remember that the Silverado Fire Safe Council is hosting their Fire Safe Fair on Saturday the 19th? And you're all invited, and I'll be sending a flyer around as well if you want to share and spread the word, because they're hoping to get great attendance for that event. There are a slew of wonderful events coming up the following day on the 19th, including the Berryessa Highlands is having a community meeting, an event, the Mount Veeders having their annual pancake breakfast and neighborhood meeting the morning of the 19th. As was mentioned earlier, the Angwin Flea Market is happening Sunday the 19th in the morning. And that is also a fundraiser for the Angwin Fire Department. And they'll have a lot of fire equipment on hand. Potentially a couple of goat mascots will be showing up for that as well. And then there's the event with Deer Park Fire Safe Council is going to be hosting at the Tucker Farm Center along with Diamond Mountain Fire Safe Council. And that will include a quick update and field guide to the CalVTP, which we're very excited about for Angwin and Deer Park area, and also a demonstration for defensible space, and then hands-on volunteer work to help get the Tucker Farm Center safer from wildfire.
And we have 2 engines coming.
And we have 2 engines coming. Yeah, it's going to be great. Thanks, Deb. Deborah has done a great job of organizing this event, and it's going to be a good one too. So the hard thing for some of you on Sunday will be to decide which things to attend or run from one to the other, I guess, all around the county. And there are probably more I'm missing. Yes.
I think you said the 19th for the Silverado Fire Safe Fair. It's actually the 18th on Saturday from 10 to 2, and we do have about 30 vendors attending and lots of fun things to do, and some speakers like Bill Dodd to talk about what's going on at the state level. So please think about showing up.
Thank you, Susan, for saving my bacon there. And I was going to share mine again, but I will put that up at the end. We do have a flyer, as I mentioned, and it's May 18th for sure. The 19th is crowded with a lot of other great events scattered around, and Bob Cumbie has his hand up.
Yeah, just real quickly, Joe. Hennessy Rector might be a good place for the Meter Me pilot. I think we're pretty good penetration in our neighborhood already. A lot of folks have signed up, so maybe you, Ofer, and I can talk about how to coordinate that, and I'll go twist a couple of arms of the few neighbors that don't have it up and running yet.
Great suggestion. Yeah.
Excellent.
Thumbs up from Brandon on that too.
Oh, good. Yeah, thank you for that. And then again, really quickly, for those of you who haven't heard, CAL FIRE and PUC did put fire on the ground. They did a prescribed fire broadcast burn in the PUC forest. About 13 acres were successfully burned. It's been a project that was about 2 years in the making, with lots of clearing out of brush and mastication, and then circling all the trees to remove all the debris from around the tree trunks. The trees wouldn't burn up, and the fire went really well. It's a great learning opportunity, and hopefully opening up the gateway for using prescribed fire as a tool in our toolbox. going forward, but we'll also send a link to the video from that for all of you to enjoy. And lots more things coming up, and field trips, and get you out there to see some of these things in person, and be able to chat with each other, and as we like to do. All right, let's see. And I
Sherry,
think that's it.
if you need a scoot, I mean, I'm happy to stay on for a few more minutes if people have questions or want to review, or share updates. I can kind of keep it going. I know it sounds like you got to jump.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much, and thanks
Thanks
everybody.
for all
Really
those awesome
appreciate you all.
updates, Sherry. So I'll hang out as long as if people have questions or want to share updates. Otherwise, we can wrap up. Richard, I'll answer your question. There's no stepping on toes. If you want to reach out to NRCS, Evelyn runs a program over there. I'm not sure specifically what that USDA grant is, but I suspect that it's involved with, it's probably within the equip thing, and maybe that your neighbor was able to access some funds for some equipment. I don't know what the parameters are, but by all means, Natural Resource Conservation Services has a bunch of different programs that are highly synergistic with improving the resiliency of your land. They've got equipment, grants for equipment. They've got grants to help you get in your woods and do lop and scatter and prep your property for maybe a prescribed burn or different kinds of fuel mitigation treatments and things like that. So yeah, she's fantastic. Great resource to work with.
Great, thank you.
No problem. Oh, that's our, thanks, Sherry. This is our pancake breakfast flyer, I guess, for Sharon. Sherry?
That's not what I'm trying to share, but
Oh.
but I did want to share that also.
Any other FSC updates that you all want to talk through? Cool. Abigail, Suzanne, Miguel, thanks so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having us. Really appreciate it.
There's the Fire Safe Fair. Yeah, by all means, go to the Silverado. It'll be a great event, good speakers, lots of information, great resources, and our goats.
Never beat the goats.
That's right.
Oops. There's the various highlands.
Gosh, look at how professional we are. So awesome.
I know, we're all grown up, just about. And then there's the I may be missing some things on this list too. I'll try to have it totally complete when I send it around to you.
May is a busy month.
Good stuff. Lots of good stuff.
All right, team. Well, enjoy your evening. Thanks so much for all your great work. We're in it together, and take care. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody.
Thanks for your time.
Bye.
Appreciate you.